You know you've wanted LASIK for a long time. Make 2022 your year. Monson Vision in Logan has options to correct your vision for nearly all prescriptions and eye types. Nearsighted, farsighted, astigmatism, and even options to correct reading up close after age 40. Use your new flex spending or your tax refund on something that will change your quality of life for the better. Don't wait any longer. Make this year the year at Monson Vision. Visit monsonvision.com. That's monsonvision.com.
Today is the last day of the Downtown Sidewalk Sale. Shop S.E. Needham Jewelers both inside and outside. You'll find bargains under the tent. This is a store-wide clearance sale on giftware, watches, clocks, and jewelry. Buy one item, get one free on giftware. Enter to win the giveaway of diamond earrings valued at $2,500. Find closeout deals on diamonds. If you're getting engaged, this is an event you don't want to miss. Shop downtown. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Go! Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show. It is the Garden Guide here on KVNU with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. I'm Will Feelwright, and we want to let everyone know right off the bat, this is actually a show that we have pre-recorded in advance as for scheduling, and so we aren't able to take phone calls this morning, but we can tell you that we are heading into a beautiful weekend. As we look to the forecast here this weekend, it's just going to be amazing. And Mark, it's great to have you here in the studio a day early. Of course, this is going to be broadcasting Saturday morning, and as we look ahead to this weekend, oh, yeah, you couldn't ask for a better weekend to be outside.
Oh, it's been so nice. I've been outside the last couple of days. In fact, I've been weeding and watering and fertilizing my garden. So yesterday, pretty much just for a couple hours in the morning, it was cool. Got up early and got out there before it got hot and just weeded. I got almost the entire garden just weeded. I've got one row of potatoes left to do. Unfortunately, it's a 75-foot row of potatoes.
I was going to say, one row's not too bad.
No. But I got everything else cleaned up, and it just seems like it's just kind of been ongoing through June, where I could only do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, which is a great way to work in the garden, where you only spend 15 or 20 minutes a day and just like do a little bit. But there were some sections that needed some serious attention, and I was able to like pick all of our peas and till those all in. So the peas peas are all done. Picked all the peas, tilled all the vines in. I'm gonna let it sit for a day or two. I'll probably water it, get the soil hydrated up a little bit again, and then till it again and really get that worked in. And then I'll plant some more corn. And so it's a great time of year to recycle some of that soil. So if your spinach is all done and your lettuce is all done and you've just about finished up the kale and the peas are all gone, you got all this empty space in the garden. And so I'm just going to recycle that space and put some more beans and some more corn in there and
use it up.
Yeah, and have those producing in September. So it's a really great way to get things, like a fall crop going. You could do another crop of beets, another crop of carrots, and they'll produce in 75 days. So 75 days from right now is going to be mid-September, early October, which is great for carrots or beets. For corn and beans, they'll be producing much earlier than that.
Yeah.
And so you can get plant it July 15th or so. Let's just say for ease, July 15th we're going to plant corn. It'll be ready by the 15th or 20th of September. Yeah, because it's going to come on that much faster because of the heat while you're planting. So it just jumps out of the ground quicker and matures a lot faster. And beans are only like 50 days. Yeah. And so you plant beans right now, they'll be ready the 1st of September, which is a great time for picking and bottling and eating for sure. Yeah, definitely for eating.
Well, we've talked about soils being so warm right now, and it is. It's just everything's taken off in the garden, including the weeds.
Yes.
And so
the weeds are going crazy. So I did. I pulled weeds like crazy yesterday, and I hoed and I got through all the corn and cleaned up the cantaloupes and cucumbers as well too, and they're running like crazy. They're vining all over the place. Yeah, my tomatoes I've had to go through and kind of redirect the growth so it'll stay inside the tomato cage instead of just kind of like spreading out all over the place, because the plants, man, they're putting on an inch a day. Like the tomato plants. Yeah, they're just taking off like crazy. So great time to be outside. Beautiful weather for this weekend. It's going to be warm, but get out there in the morning and get out there in the evening. And boy, it just isn't nicer than being outside while the weather's great. So,
and even though we're not going to be taking calls for the show today, we are going to be talking about a lot of the questions that have come into Anderson Seed and Garden over the last week. Yeah. And one I'm sure that a lot of people are asking you is, here we are in these 90-degree temperatures. How do you water your garden? Yeah, that's an excellent question. And over the years, we've tried a lot of different methods. And in fact, I did a little short video the other day that will be pushing out on social media that talks about watering. And some people water their gardens with a sprinkler. And a sprinkler is really easy. You can just like plop it right in the middle of the garden, turn it on, let it do its thing. But it's probably the least effective and least water conscious way to water your garden. You're going to lose a lot to evaporation. You end up watering all the weeds as well as all the plants as well too. But if you will switch to a soaker hose, and I have done most of my garden with soaker hoses, so all my rows have soaker hoses down them, and I've got a quick connect system and a timer, and I'm using secondary water to water with, and it just makes it so easy and so nice. So basically yesterday while I was out weeding, I just like turned on a couple of the rows with my soaker hoses, went and weeded, did my thing. They just watered on their own. Then when it started to get hot, I decided to just shut the water off for the afternoon because it was getting kind of hot. But then when it started to cool down in the evening, I was able to move it to some new spots, just turn it on, go do what I needed to with my family, and it just watered on its own. Just took care of it.
Yeah. So I basically watered the entire garden yesterday with about 15 minutes of input from me, just moving the hoses to the soakers and getting those hooked up and turning them on and setting the timer, and then when that turns off, then just going switching them and moving them to another spot. So literally I put about 10 or 15 minutes of effort into hooking the water up and setting the timer and just turning it on, letting it do its thing. I did the same thing in our orchard too. So I watered basically all the trees in my dad's orchard, which are on drip system. Did it exactly the same way. Just set it up, turn the timer on, that just did its thing. So,
and with those soaker hoses, you're using a fraction of the water compared to an old Rainbird.
70% less water to do a better job than with a sprinkler. Yeah, that's how much of a difference. And then if you're using a drip system compared to a sprinkler, you're using 90% less water. So you're using 10% of the water that you would use otherwise, but you're doing a really good job of watering because it's putting it right into the root zone of the plant. So I've got a lot of my trees and shrubs on our hot south-facing sloped hillside that I've got all on a drip system, and I'll just turn those suckers on in the evening before I go to bed, and I'll just let them soak all night. But I only do it every 2 weeks, and so they just get dripped all night long for 12 hours. 12 hours or so, and maybe not even that much. And then I don't have to do it again for 2 weeks because it just saturates the soil right there where the root zones are. And boy, those trees are just doing great. So, there's a lot of ways we can conserve and utilize water much better right now. Even keeping the same landscape, keeping the same plants that we've got, and especially in the vegetable garden, if you switch from a furrow irrigation or from a sprinkler to a soaker hose or to a drip system, boy, you're going to cut your water usage by 70 to 90% of what you've been doing previously.
So now, if you are going to put in soaker hoses, and for several years you've talked about this, how easy are they to maintain? Do you pull them out at the end of the year as you're
I do.
Up the garden?
So in the fall, when it's time to clean up, I'll just pull those soaker hoses out of the rows before I kind of start cutting the plants down and stuff, because I have accidentally hit the soaker hoses with the tiller before. That does not go over really well with the hoses. In fact, I've had to do a few minor repairs
to the tiller and to the hose.
And to the hose, yes. It takes more time and effort than it's worth. So usually I'll pull those hoses and just coil them up, and they just go in our storage shed or into our barn, and I've just got them all coiled there and ready to go for the next year. It's really easy. Just like put those out once in the spring. They do their thing all summer. You coil them up and put them away for the fall, and by bringing them in the fall and not having them out in the wintertime, I'll get 5 to 8 years out of those hoses.
Yeah,
before they start to deteriorate. And they're all made from recycled car tires, and so they can be recycled again as well too. So as they start to go bad, then you can just send those back in to be recycled. So the hoses really do a great job, save a lot of time and a lot of effort, and really you're conserving 70 to 90% of your water usage by switching.
Now, if you go to Soaker Hoses, say, for example, you have a garden and we have, for example, different lengths of our beans or rows are certain feet long.
Right.
Corn is a little longer. Can you custom cut those?
Absolutely. Lengths? So my rows are 50 feet long on the upper part of our garden and 75 feet on the lower part. And the hoses that I use come in 50-foot sections. And so I will cut those hoses halfway and then put a new male and a new female end on, and they just use half-inch connectors. Oh. And so you can just cut those, splice them, and if you accidentally hit it with your tiller and rip a hole in it, you can just trim it, and you can just do a half-inch hose repair on there, and it works great. Yeah, it just works great. So I've cut multiple hoses to make some 25s. And then I hooked the 25s on the end of the 75 or the 50s, and now I have a 75-foot hose. You really don't want to go longer than 75 to 100-foot lengths because your distribution of water starts to decrease. I guess it doesn't decrease, but it becomes uneven. Right, so you have more pressure at one end and less pressure at the other because of the distance that it has to go. So you have to be a little careful. And the way I've got my water set up with our secondary water, it doesn't have a lot of pressure, which is perfect for the soaker hoses. But I can only run 2 or 3 hoses on the lower end because they're the 75-footers, where I can run 4 at the same time on the upper end. So I can actually water the upper end of our garden with just 2 shots because I can do 4 or 5 rows at a time and cover the entire upper part of the garden. And the lower part of the garden, I have to do 3 instead. So it's just the distance of the hoses really make a difference in how much pressure you've got to have to get nice even distribution. But I'll tell you what, when I can just get up in the morning and set those up before I go to work and let them water while I'm gone and turn off on their own. And then when I get home from work, I can just move them to a new section and turn them on and let them water with the timer. And then before I go to bed, I'll just set it up for the third time. It's in 24 hours, I can water the entire garden and only spend 15 minutes. Yeah.
And use just a fraction of the water.
A fraction of the water. Yeah. It's it's so nice. It really does a great job. Hey, our Mad Money sale's coming up next week.
I was going to mention there's actually a lot going on the next couple of weeks.
So much happening at Anderson. So sidewalk sales going on right now. So today, Saturday, since you're listening to the show on Saturday, sidewalk sales going on. We've got some great deals going on at Anderson's. We've got our bloomed out perennials are 50% off. We've got a great selection of the fruit trees that came in still. We've got some specials going on, a lot of different home decor. So there's a lot of various sales happening throughout the store. But then next week is when we have our Mad Money sale. So if you've been coming into the store for the last 4 or 5 months and making purchases, we ask you for your customer number when you check out. And your customer number is basically your phone number that you've given us for your customer number. If you have been giving us your customer number, all those purchases that you've made have been accumulating onto your Mad Money total. So the way we do it is for every $10 that you spend in the store, you basically get $1 in Mad Money to come back and spend during our Mad Money sales. So it's a 10% rebate on everything that you buy in the store. So you're automatically getting this Mad Money accumulated on your account. And then when we have our sales, one's here in July, we've got one in September where we do a bulb exchange, and then we have one in December. You can use your Mad Money just like cash for up to half of your purchase. And so let's say you came in and you had to buy a couple new trees and some shrubs because you decided to re-landscape and you spent $500 in the store. And you would have $50 in Mad Money accumulated to use during our Mad Money sale. So you could come back in and you could get one of our brand new fruit trees that just came in that are somewhere between $130, $150. You could use your $50 of accumulated Mad Mad Money towards that and get a $50 discount off of the tree. Yeah, but you have to use it for up to half of your purchase. So if you have $50, you've got to spend at least $100 to be able to use all of the $50. And some of our customers will spend it all in July, and then they'll come in and they'll spend more money, and then they'll have some to spend in December, or some will spend half now, and then they want to get a bunch of bulbs in the fall, so they'll come in and they'll do a bulb exchange in September. So you can do it however you want. Your Mad points, your Mad Money points don't expire until January 1st.
Okay.
So you've got 3 opportunities this year to use your Mad Money. So it's our way to really reward our customers that are coming in consistently, spending money at Anderson's. I mean, so basically we're giving you across the board a 10% rebate on what you have purchased for the year, and you get to come in and utilize that during our special sales. And there'll be a bunch of stuff on sale already. So we'll usually put some trees on sale. We'll do some shrubs on sale. We have like annual flowers and perennials that will be on sale. Whatever vegetables we've got left, we'll be clearing those out. So it's a great time to come in, take advantage of the sales that we have going on, and use your Mad Money for half of that purchase. So even if the item is regular price, you can still use your Mad Money. But if it's on sale, you can still use your Mad Money.
Still use it.
Yeah. The only thing you can't use your Mad Money on right now would be vegetable seeds and gift certificates.
No.
So we don't ever do the vegetable seeds. And at Christmas time, we don't do the amaryllis bulbs because the demand is so high for the amaryllis bulbs. And right now the demand is so high for the seeds that we never include those on our Mad Money sale. Plus our bulk seeds are so cheap as it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They're so inexpensive as it is to begin with. I mean, you're getting a great deal to begin with.
Yeah.
But the Mad Money you can use on basically everything else that's in the store. I've got, right now, this is a great item. And fertilizer prices have gotten really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So since last September, we just watched fertilizer prices spike like crazy. And so we purchased a whole bunch of fertilizer early to try and avoid that price increase. And some of the fertilizer we got is a blend from Morgrow, is a 16-16-8 with 3% iron in it. So it's great for gardens. It's great for shrubs and trees. It's really good for a winterizer for your lawn. You could use it right now if you just didn't want to use too much high nitrogen on your grass right now with that 3% iron in there. Normally the bags of the 16-16 are $50 to $55. So the 16-16-8 with the 3% iron, we're doing on sale right now for $49. No, sorry, $39. I misspoke, not $49, because that would be $50. Yeah. So basically they're $40 a bag, and if you have $20 in Mad Money, you can get it for half price. So you can get a 50-pound bag of fertilizer for $20, which is unheard of right now.
Especially right now. Yeah.
It's unheard of right now. So great pricing on the 16-16-8 with 3% iron in there. So they are regularly $55. They are on sale for $40 right now. And you can use your Mad Money towards it. So some really great deals going on at Anderson's. It's a good time to come in. And Monday is the 30th anniversary Festival Opera.
Yeah, for the Utah Festival Opera.
It's like their Center Street celebration. So that should be great. So they're closing off Center Street on Monday. There's going to be a whole bunch of food trucks, and there's like a little events going on all day, and they've got some concerts and a movie.
Yeah, live performances are going to be going on. They've got even a few events for the kids. Yeah. And then during the afternoon, we're going to be doing a live broadcast there. And then I guess it's all going to culminate with a musical performance and fireworks to finish it off.
Nice.
Dark.
That sounds awesome. I didn't know they were doing fireworks.
Fireworks there on Center Street.
I've been trying honestly for 15 years to get fireworks approved to do downtown on Center Street for the holiday parade. For the Christmas parade. Yeah. I've been honestly. How did they pull that off? I've been talking to the fire chief.
Maybe
and the
it's going to be fireworks from a distance. I don't know.
Man,
and maybe it might just be sparklers
stealing my thunder. It's like that's exactly what I want. Wouldn't that be awesome to do that for the Center Street, holiday celebration when we have Santa show up and everybody hangs out and we have the food trucks and the vendors and then the caroling on there, and then when it gets dark, then we have like fireworks. It would be so cool. Yeah.
Seeing if the event center might be getting close
The plaza.
Plaza.
Yep, the plaza would be perfect.
We could have that for
Perfect spot for that. Perfect spot. So exciting to see the Utah Festival Opera having their Center Street celebration. 30 years. Can you believe it? It's been 30 years. That's crazy. I remember going to their first show over at the
30 years ago.
Yeah, that was before they fixed up the Capitol. I mean, they were kind of working. They were kind of working on it. Maybe they had worked on it, but yeah, I remember that first season. My wife and I went. So very cool.
Been a very huge staple for this area over the last 30 years, and but again, a lot going on just today. With the sidewalk sale.
Yes.
It's always just a fun time to walk up and down
of course,
Center
it's
Main
always
Street.
95 degrees for the sidewalk sale. So it's like there's nothing new. It's not any hotter than it normally is.
But usually the secret is if you walk by Anderson's, a lot of times you'll have the sprinkler sprayers
have the misters going. Yep,
that really helps.
Usually the misters make a big difference. And we do have misters for sale, too. So they're great. There's a Viper and a Cobra that one's a freestanding, and then they've also got versions that you can coil like around a post, or you can coil it around the center of your umbrella, and then have it mist off of that. So it's great.
Nice.
They're awesome. Yeah, they're great. So they're made by Orbit, and one's called the Cobra, that's the bigger one, and then one's called the Viper, and that's a smaller one. And you can hook them up to a regular garden hose, and they just put out this nice fine cooling mist. And you can put them on your outdoor umbrella. You can put them on the post of your deck, or however you want to set it up, and it's very nice. Yeah, it's very nice.
Well, we've got a lot of questions that have come up over the last week. A couple of these we didn't even get a chance to talk about in last week's show.
I know, because we had so many callers.
Yeah, we
calling in.
did. And one question that we just didn't get to is we're seeing a lot of iron deficiency right now.
Yes, in all kinds of plants. So maples, seeing lots and lots of samples of maple trees with iron deficiency or iron chlorosis. Shows up in burning bush. We're seeing a lot in spirea, raspberries. Almost every day I'm seeing a sample of iron deficient raspberries. And
the yellow leaves.
Yep, yellow leaves. You've got dark green veins running through the lighter colored leaves. And it always shows up in the newest growth first and will gradually work its way into the older growth. So when your plants are starting to go iron deficient, the newest growth is what's going to show right off the bat. So you could have kind of a multicolored foliage tree or shrub where you've got older growth still green and healthy looking, and the new growth is starting to show
yellowish,
pale colored leaves with those dark green veins showing in it. So we're seeing a lot of iron deficiency. And what happens is our soil is very alkaline. So our soil is derived from limestone. And so limestone, the pH is really high because you've got lime. So our pH around here generally runs between 7 and 8. Sometimes I've seen it higher than 8 as well, too. The problem with most varieties of iron that you can apply to your plants is they will work in soil conditions up to about 7 on the pH scale. And so most types of iron, like ironite and iron sulfate and some of those varieties of iron, they work really well if your soil pH is below 7. If it's above 7, it ties up that iron, it binds it up, so you could just apply it almost on a daily basis, and your plants would never, ever be able to pick it up because the soil pH ties up that iron.
It's still so high.
Yeah, and it makes it so that the plants can't utilize it. So it basically eats up the iron so that none of it is available to the plants to use. So you have to use a variety of iron that has been pre-digested and is made for soils above 7. So that the particular iron, there's a couple varieties that you can use. One is the iron combo chelate that's made right here in Cache Valley. So the combo chelate is pre-digested. It's pre-chelated for the plants, and it will work in soil pHs above 7. So that's a liquid form that you can use. You can spray it on the plants. You can water the plants with it. They'll pick it up through the root system. The other version is called EDDHA, and that's the amino acid that they use to pre-digest the iron, and it's red. It's a red powder. It looks, when you mix it up in water, it looks like blood. I mean, it would make the best prop for a movie. Yeah, because I mean, it looks just like blood.
Really
it's red. Yeah, because your blood's full of iron, and so it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and so this iron is readily available to the plants. They can pick it up and use it almost instantly. and it works in soil pHs above 7. And so if you are struggling with iron chlorosis, with iron deficiency problems on whatever plant it is that you have, whether it could be your hanging baskets of petunias. I mean, I've seen iron deficiency on those, as well as burning bush and autumn blaze maples, and oaks tend to be very iron deficient, and magnolias. I had to water my magnolia with chelated iron the other day because it was starting to show a little bit of iron deficiency. So we're seeing a lot of it. We had a lot of rain this spring. Despite our drought conditions, we had a lot of rain in March, April, and May for Cache Valley, and so it's leached a lot of the available iron out of the soil, and so it's just not there. It's not available for the plants to pick up. So by supplementing with the EDDHA, we can correct that problem, and the plants will be able to pick it up, and we'll green them up and get them looking really good again.
Okay.
Yeah. Tree treats work great too.
Oh, yeah. The
so
stakes?
Yeah, so the tree treats, they're not the stakes, they're the implants.
The
implants
that you put into the bark.
Right into the tree. So this spring I had a bunch of new employees at Logan Extermination, and they were going out to do tree implants, and they'd never done them before. So I brought them over to my house and showed them exactly how to do it. So we did about 6 trees in my yard and in my parents' yard as well, too. And we did implants on apple tree. We did implants on pear tree. We did a couple different, I think we did a beech and a linden as well, too, and a couple maples. And they look amazing. So that kind of bypasses the soil problem because it puts the iron right directly into the circulatory system of the tree. So if you're struggling for iron deficiency for really large trees, that's the way to go because it's so easy to administer that to the trees in a form that they can pick up and use almost immediately. So, yeah, some great options for correcting iron deficiency.
Well,
Anderson's,
as we head into the bottom of the hour, we're going to take and talk about some more questions that have come up at the store. Plus, also, we've got more details on a very exciting weekend, this weekend and next weekend at Anderson Seed and Garden as you're listening to The Garden Guide here on KVNU. With your KVNU News update here at the bottom of the hour, I'm Will Feelright. It's brought to you by Roof Rescue. Well, it's a heck of a way to run a railroad. That's what some motorists are saying, as Union Pacific has requested and been granted a temporary restraining order affecting the traffic flow at the intersection of 14th North and 600 West in Logan. Now, according to the order, the recently installed traffic signal at that location has been temporarily deactivated and covered, turning the intersection back into a four-way stop. It's all part of a three-way dispute between local officials, the Utah Department of Transportation, and Union Pacific Railroad. Logan City has been working with Union Pacific to upgrade the intersection since 2016, but the point of contention has always been the nearby railroad crossing on 14th North. Union Pacific has seemed determined to fight this ruling, and the case appears to be headed to litigation in court. And evacuations were ordered in Oak City Canyon for a fire in Millard County. Utah fire officials say the Dry Creek fire was located east of Oak City on Friday and was rapidly growing. They estimated it to be over 100 acres. Officials said the fire was human-caused and under investigation. Air Resources were assisting firefighters on the ground. Firefighters in Millard County were tackling also a second fire known as the Halfway Hill Fire that was burning southeast of Fillmore on Friday as well. Well, looking at hot and dry conditions continuing as daytime temperatures are going to stay right around the mid-90s through the weekend for us. Overnight temperatures are going to be right around the low 60s. We are under a red flag warning for parts of northern Utah and southeast Idaho due to these dry conditions and gusting winds. So be careful if you are going to be outside. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd, and Dodgers All-Star Mookie Betts hit a tying sacrifice fly in the 9th inning, and in the 10th, Will Smith slapped the ball to left field.
Line drive, base hit into left field. Trey Turner on his way home, and he is going to score.
On Dodgers Radio AM 570, Dodgers beat Chicago 4-3. Well, the Yankees roughed up Red Sox pitchers Friday night in Fenway Park.
Hit in the air to left field, deep toward the line. That ball is gone.
On WFAN, after Donaldson's 3-run blast, Matt Carpenter also homered in New York's 12-5 victory over Boston, and the Braves also used the long ball to trash the Nationals in Atlanta.
Left field, roaring through the sky and out of the ballpark. A 3-run home run for Ronald Acuna.
On 680 AM, The Fan, Matt Olson and William Contreras also homered, leading surging Atlanta to a 12-2 victory over Washington. This is ABC Sports.
The expert with a green thumb. It's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide here on KVNU with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. We again mentioned to you here at the bottom of the hour that this show was pre-recorded earlier in the week, as we are not able to take phone calls for today, but we are going to be answering your gardening and lawn questions throughout the second half of this show. And Mark, we want to just mention too, before we get into those questions, a really exciting weekend happening down on Center Street with the sidewalk sale and at Anderson's.
Yeah, so many things happening right now. So sidewalk sales going on downtown, and there's many businesses that have all kinds of great deals and specials out on their sidewalk. Of course, we try and do it in our parking lot back behind the store. We'll throw a few things out on the sidewalk as well too, but we've got some great perennials that look amazing, but they're done blooming, so we call them the bloomed out perennials. So they're done blooming for this year, but the plants look great, and so we've got those on sale for 50% off. We've got our gorgeous fruit trees that just came in last week that look absolutely amazing, and usually this time of year you can't get peaches or nectarines or apricots or even plums. They've just all disappeared. Well, we've got them right now because they just came in, and they look absolutely beautiful. Awesome. Yeah, they look really, really good. We've got a great special on fertilizers. So I've got a 16-16-8 fertilizer with 3% iron. It's usually, right now, fertilizer prices are really up. It's usually $55 for a bag, and you can get them for it for $40 right now. So it's $39.99. So a really great price, and a lot of different home decor and various items on sale throughout the store as well too. So good deals going on right now for the sidewalk sale. Those specials will continue next week for our Mad Money sale,
which will be next weekend.
Well, it'll be all week. So it goes all week from the 11th through the 16th.
Oh, okay. So it starts on Monday.
So the whole week we're doing Mad Money. And we used to do it just for the weekend, but then we always have people that come in, they're like, well, I can't be there on the weekend. I want to use my Mad Money. It's like, well, we'll just extend it. We'll just make it a whole week. And so you've got the whole week to come in and use your Mad Money. And as we explained earlier in the show, for every $10 that you spend in the store, you get $1 back in Mad Money. So basically you get a 10% rebate on all your purchases from the 1st of March until now. And for all those purchases, you'll get $1 back in Mad Money to use, and you can use it for up to half of your purchase. So if you have purchased, say, $500 worth of product throughout the spring, you'll have $50 in Mad Money. You can come in and you can use that for up to half of your purchase price. You could buy $100 worth of fertilizer and use $50 of your Mad Money and $50 of your. Yeah, it's not too bad. We only have a few items that we don't include in the Mad Money sale. And I did think of another one, too. We don't do gift cards, and we don't do Mad Money on seeds. Yeah, and when you're purchasing, we've got like some really large ticket items that we don't include in the Mad Money, and that would be like our BCS tillers. For like a $5,000 tiller, it's just it doesn't fall into the Mad Money category. So but otherwise, everything else is available for purchase. If it's on sale, you can use your Mad Money towards it. If it's regular price, you can use your Mad Money towards it. And the Mad Money sale is from the 11th through the 16th. And if you've come in and you've purchased with us, and you gave us your customer number, which is basically your phone number, we got that onto your receipt. Our point of sale system will track all of your Mad Money for you. So basically, all I got to do is just come in and say, "Hey,
give us your phone number.
How much Mad Money have I got?" We'll pull up your account. We'll take a look, and it'll tell us exactly how much. We'll send emails out to everyone next week. If we've got your email address for our monthly newsletter, we'll send out reminders to everybody next week who has accumulated Mad Money. Yeah, so you should get an email from Anderson's that says, "Hey, Mad Money sales going on. You have Mad Money, come in and use it.
And you were talking about seeds just a few minutes ago, and we stopped by there just yesterday and grabbed some seeds, replanting a few squash plants. And,
yeah.
You know, it's amazing. The ground is so warm right now that this is really excellent.
Oh, they
time
come
to
up
plant.
so fast. Yeah, so fast. So if you like had a zucchini disaster, or your crookneck got run over accidentally when the kids took the wagon through the garden, or
exactly, or
whatever,
something to do with the dog.
Yeah. You got plenty of time to plant.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I planted my crooknecks about the 5th or 6th of June. And so I started them inside, but they were only like a week or 10 days old from inside. Transplanted those out the first part of June, which is just a month ago. I've got baby crooknecks already. Yeah, like they'll be ready to pick here probably Sunday or Monday. They'll be ready to go. So we're talking only like 40 days, 45 days, and you're picking fruits. So if you plant some zucchinis or some crooknecks right now, you'll be picking those by the middle of August. And they'll produce until it freezes in the fall. In fact, my dad would usually plant some early, in May, and get those going. But then they kind of get overgrown, and they just kind of get all over, leggy and all over the place. And so he'd always plant some new ones around the 1st of July so that they'd be coming on, mid-August, so we could just like tear the other plants out because they weren't doing great anymore, and just have some brand new ones going. Yeah, so it's a great way to recycle some of that soil.
Yeah,
for sure.
Now, some of the other things that I know you've been getting questions about is insects.
Yes,
there's a lot of bugs in not only with fruit trees, but in gardens and in lawns.
Oh yeah, tons of insects showing up. Grasshoppers, of course, which we've talked about previously on the show. But it is time to do your second application on the apple and pear trees for codling moth. So USU Extension puts traps all over the valley, all over the state, in fact, and then tracks when is the best time to spray for codling moth larvae attacking the apples and the pears. Well, their proposed second application is the 11th of July. So that's coming right up. So probably next week is going to be prime time for doing your second application here in the valley. And it varies a little bit. Sometimes it starts a little earlier than that. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer. But within the next 10 days, you really want to get your next application on for codling moth control. And we're seeing a lot of people picking cherries. So the cherries are really coming on, and should have sprayed your cherry trees before now. Usually we tell people right when they really start to color up, when they start to go salmon color, that's the time to spray. And we sprayed ours just at the right time this year because we don't have a single worm in our cherries. They they just turned out perfect. But if your cherries are just coloring up and they're not ripe yet, you may want to do a second application on those as well too. But I was out doing a yard consult this week with a customer who had some serious problems they wanted to address, and we were looking at their cherry tree and their apricot tree and their peaches, and they have shot hole fungus on their trees. And it looks like somebody has shot the tree with a shotgun. So there's lots of little holes in the leaves. Yeah, so it starts as a little brown spot on the leaf, and then as it matures, the spots fall out, and it leaves the leaf tissue there, and it leaves a hole. And so it looks like you've actually just shot it with a shotgun, and the spots will show up on your fruit as well too. So I've seen apricots with shot hole fungus on them, peaches as well too. Cherries, you'll see little brown dimples on the cherries as well too. So it's a pretty prevalent disease. We've seen a lot of it the last couple of years. It will cause cankers on the branches and on the twigs of the trees that will split open in the springtime or early summer, and you'll get globs of sap that come out. So it's very common to see people come in and think they've got borers in their tree, but it's really shot hole fungus, and it's a little canker that's just kind of split open. And where it splits open, the tree it's kind of like when you get a cut. You bleed, so it cleans the wound out.
Right. And the scabs.
Yeah, and the tree's doing the same thing, and so you get this canker that splits open. It bleeds out to kind of clean the wound out, and then it scabs over and kind of protects it. And so it's natural for the tree to do that, to try and clean these wounds out. And there's a way to prevent that. And so right now, if you're seeing a lot on the leaves but you haven't seen it on the fruit, it's a good time to spray with a fungicide like you could use copper soap from Natural Guard. You could use complete disease control from Monterey. Those are two natural organic disease controls that would be great to use for shot hole fungus and prevent it from spreading over to your fruit. So it's going to spread from the leaves over to the fruit if you don't do anything about it, especially if it gets hit with a sprinkler or if a big rainstorm hits and it splashes water, it'll splash over to the fruit, it'll infect the fruit. The best way to prevent it is to spray in the fall as the leaves are dropping off. So really October, you want to put a little note on your calendar that you should spray when you see about 50% of the leaves come off the trees in the fall. That usually happens between the 15th and the 30th of October, sort of close to Halloween time. That's when you want to spray, and we do the same thing, but we mix it with a dormant oil. So I'd say do a dormant oil, add a fungicide to it, like the copper soap, like the F-stop, like the complete disease control, and spray at 50% leaf drop in the fall. And then in the springtime, we're going to spray it again, not with the dormant oil, but just with the disease control about the time that the blossoms fall off. So usually around mid to late April, when the blossoms have all dropped off, that's when we want to spray it again. And then if it stays cold and wet through May, you usually want to do it about every 2 weeks while it stays cold and wet. And it did this year. Yeah. So this year we had cold and wet all the way through May. So we've seen a lot of shot hole fungus that has spread long after the blossoms drop off. And we're seeing spots on the fruit and spots on the leaves as well, too. And those are two critical times to prevent that so you don't have to deal with it for next year. Okay. Yeah, for next year. So it's hard for people to remember. You've got to put that in your phone or put it on your calendar.
Write it on the fridge or something.
And we'll talk about it on the show as well too. But it's better to be prepared and know when those times are, especially if you've had that disease in the past. It's kind of like having fire blight. You just like if you've had fire blight, you know it's going to be out there. And you just want to prevent. You just want to prevent it because once your trees get it, it's so hard to get it under control. But if you can prevent it in the first place, it's much, much easier to deal with.
So we were talking earlier about coddling moth with your apples. Here's one that is affecting us this year. We, last summer, decided we'd get a few bird houses and bird feeders, and we put them up, and we've had just all sorts of fun during the winter months, especially with birds. The problem is, though, is now we've got an aviator, a little aviation center in our backyard, and our apple trees are coming in, and the birds are like, hey, not only do we got seeds, but now we got a fruit buffet in the backyard.
So the strawberries and the cherries, the birds absolutely love those.
They go nuts for them.
Yeah, and what we've found is netting works really well. You got to keep the birds out. You got to use netting. There are some reflective tapes that are very effective that are somewhere between an inch to 2 inches wide, and they're kind of metallic or mylar. They're made out of mylar, so they're reflective, and they kind of wiggle or whip in the wind, and they kind of make a little bit of noise, and then they reflect light, and it scares the birds off, and they leave. So we've had some really good results with the reflective tape. That's worked quite nicely to keep them out of the trees. The nets work really well, but we found the birds can get up underneath the nets. Then if you get stuck in the nets, then you have dead birds too. We have also noticed that a couple dead birds caught in the net do not discourage other birds from coming in. So it's not like it's a good deterrent to have a couple dead birds hanging in
And while
your
the
tree.
birds are caught inside the net, they're gorging on your apples.
They're eating your apples and your cherries. Yeah, they usually you're fighting for the cherries and the strawberries, and that's much more attractive to them than the bird seed is in the summertime. But whether you've got feeders or not, you're still going to get birds that eat those. So we've got a lot of birds eating our cherries right now as well too. But I'm okay sharing some of the crop with them as long as they don't eat everything. Yeah.
So the mylar strip's probably the better way to go.
They work really well. Yeah, they work really, really well.
Okay.
And we've had great luck with those. There's a couple bird deterrent. They're kind of like little windmills, but they're made out of like chrome. And so very, very, very light wind is all it takes to get it to move. And when it moves, it just flashes because they're very light sensitive. And so when the birds see those flashing lights, they just leave and go somewhere else. And so those have been very, very effective. And the tape kind of falls into that category. Yeah.
Okay.
So it works very well.
Now, one of the other questions I know that you've had come up is just with lawns. And maybe not a lot of insects yet in the lawns, but a lot of stress.
Right. And we up to this point in the season, we haven't seen hardly any insect damage, like none. But that's probably going to change. It's usually around the first part of July that the grubs and the bill bugs really start showing up. Yeah. And so it's a great time between the 4th of July and the 24th of July to do an additional application of a preventative insecticide. So our lawn care crews are out right now doing a light fertilizer for the summer, and for our customers who've had insects, they're doing an insecticide at the same time. So the next couple of weeks, they'll be hitting everybody's lawns with an insecticide that really need it to prevent that insect damage. But we have not seen any insect damage like pinpointed. This is absolutely insect, grub damage so far this year. But we have seen a lot of disease. We have seen a lot of stress as well too. And of course, people are very water conscious this year as well too, especially after the hot, dry conditions last year. So I think a lot of people have really cut back on their watering. So it's okay to have a lawn that's not perfectly green. It's in the middle part of the summer where you don't have to water as much. Let it go a little bit. But when you do that, it allows insects and diseases to come in and attack your lawn, and so it can definitely cause problems. And so preventatively applying a fungicide would be great, just to try and control that before it happens. But we're seeing a lot of diseases like dollar spot and summer patch and necrotic ring spot that have snuck into people's lawns, and you'll see kind of telltale signs of the diseases. You'll see streaks where it looks like somebody just kind of drove through it with the lawnmower and just kind of burnt spots. Yeah. But it'll drag the disease, and so you'll see these streaks where the lawnmower wheels have gone, and that's kind of one indication. There's some purple discoloring. There's some silver discoloring to the grass, depending on which disease it is, that we've seen a bunch of this year as well too. So it's not just looks dry and brown and crispy, but there are some diseases that do that. But in a lot of cases, we'll see some discoloration, some purple, burgundy colors to it, some silver, gray coloring to it, and in most cases it's a disease. And it's kind of tough to diagnose the diseases because you have to basically eliminate everything else. Eliminate that it's not water, stress, eliminate that it's not insects, and whatever's left over is usually it's got to be a disease. And so watering properly through the summertime. There are some great new varieties of grass that are very resistant to disease as well as insects. And so if you can incorporate some of those new varieties of grass into your turf, like a turf-type ryegrass, it is very soft, it's very green, it's very drought tolerant, and bugs won't eat it, and diseases don't bother it. And so incorporating that into your Kentucky bluegrass, you'll have the darker colored grass. You won't have to water as much, and it won't be affected by diseases and insects. So.
And you can also just do that over time.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit at a time.
And I had somebody in the other day, and their neighbor across the street has done that. And it came in heavier in a couple patches where the grass had really thinned out. And so when they overseeded, they've got some thicker areas of the ryegrass. And she came in and she looked at the rye and she's like, ooh, I love that grass. It's really, really nice. She's like, it's so soft. It's like, yes, it's a really soft grass. It's a really dark green. But the best benefits are it's drought tolerant and bugs won't eat it. Yeah. Those are the best, I guess, advantages to the grass, or side effects, and good side effects, that it's just an amazing grass. And so she just wanted to overseed her whole lawn. And so I was like, all right, well, let's aerate your lawn, mow it down really close. We're going to broadcast that seed over. We're going to rake it, and the seed's going to drop down into all those holes where you just aerated it, and that's where we're going to have all this grass coming up. And I told her, I was like, if your grass is a lighter green, you're going to have polka dots in your grass. You're going to have polka dots that come up right where it's all been aerated, but over time it's going to spread out. It's going to spread out, and then your whole lawn's going to look green and beautiful. And that turf type ryegrass, it looks so good, and it works amazingly well mixed in with the Kentucky bluegrass. It just gives it a great color, great feel, but it's so resilient to water and to insects and disease. It's a great way to go if you don't want to water as much, if you don't want to put an insecticide on every year, if you don't want to deal with disease. That's the way to go. Just change your variety of grass, and it's a lot easier than you think. You don't have to kill the whole lawn out just to do that.
Yeah. Well, as we've been talking, we're not taking calls for the show as this show was pre-recorded earlier in the week. We still have time, though, to get to a couple other questions, Mark, with about 5 minutes left in the show.
Awesome. Just fertilized my corn this week, so not only was I out weeding,
but you took care of the fertilizing.
But I took care of the corn. So the corn's about 6 to 8 inches tall, and somewhere between 6 and 12 inches is prime time for fertilizing the corn. So every year I have customers that come in and they kind of complain about the variety of corn that they got the previous year. And it's like, it's been really good for the last couple of years, but then last year it just was really short, and the ears were really small, and they didn't fill out all the way, and it just didn't produce very well. Make sure you sell me a different variety of corn. Well, it's not the variety of corn. It's corn.
The dirt.
Yeah, the corn has sucked every ounce of nitrogen out of the soil, and that will happen over years of time. And putting the corn back in the same location consistently will definitely deplete it even faster. But you've got to supplement that corn. So I usually will do a general purpose fertilizer over the whole garden before we plant in the spring. But that corn needs more nitrogen. And so when it's 6 to 12 inches tall, we side dress it with straight nitrogen. Ammonium sulfate works great. You can use 3400 if you can get a hold of it. Urea is a little hot. It's a 46% nitrogen. You would not want to use very much of it. So I prefer to go with the ammonium sulfate. It's 21% nitrogen. And the corn likes the sulfur that's in with it as well, too. So that's great for the corn. About a teaspoon to a tablespoon for each cluster of corn. And I'll do it when it's 6 to 12 inches tall, when it's about 3 feet tall, and then again when it tassels. So we're going to side dress that corn 3 times. And the best way to do it, the absolute best way to do it, is to put the fertilizer down, furrow afterwards, even though you may not be using the furrows to run irrigation water down, but it will push the soil over on top of the fertilizer. And so I use kind of a moldboard plow on my furrower, and it pushes the dirt all to one side. So I can hill up the potatoes with it. I can hill up the corn with it. And it will cover up that soil. It will hill up the corn so that the corn is deeper in the soil. So if the wind blows, it won't blow the corn over. But once you get a little bit of soil on top of that fertilizer, then you water it. And after you water it, then the nitrogen will be right there in the soil. If you water it and it's sitting on the surface, you can lose some of the nitrogen. Right. It'll evaporate into the atmosphere. And so it's really best if you can cover up that nitrogen just slightly and then water it, and then you'll see your corn just like jump inches the next day. It just grows really, really fast after that. So corn's a very heavy nitrogen feeder, and you want to make sure there's plenty of nitrogen out there for your corn to feast on throughout the summer.
Best time about 6 to 12 inches.
Yep.
Then about 3 feet.
At 3 feet. Yep.
And then
when it starts to
tassel.
Yeah. And a lot of the newer varieties of corn tassel when they're shorter. So when I was a kid, we had a variety called the NK199, and we've been able to sell that up until just the last couple of years. And it's a really tall variety of corn. It gets about 8 feet tall. And so we would fertilize it when it was a little bit taller. But most of your newer varieties of corn, they'll start to tassel when they're about 3 to 4 feet tall. Yeah. And so you really gotta kind of stay on top of it, because if you're not watching, all of a sudden the corn's tasseling, and you're like, oh, I should have fertilized.
Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to miss it. So fertilize 3 times with your corn at 6 to 12 inches, at 2 to 3 feet, and at tassel.
And tassel time.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes left, and so let's go back and talk about everything that's going on this week and next week.
Yeah.
Down at Anderson.
So many fun things going on, and sidewalk sale this weekend. So sidewalk sales all downtown, and a lot of businesses on Main Street and on Center Street. They've got some great specials going on. And at Anderson's, we have perennials on sale. We've got our 16-16-8 with 3% iron fertilizers on sale. Awesome price. You can't buy a 50-pound bag of fertilizer right now for under $50, and we're selling them for $40 on sale right now. And you can also use your Mad Money on top of it as well, too. So Mad Money sale starts for next week on the 11th and goes through the 16th. You can come in and use your Mad Money that you've been accumulating in Anderson's. It's basically our customer appreciation sale. We've got a bunch of things on sale. You've got your 10% rebate of Mad Money to use towards whatever you would like to purchase. You can use it for up to half of your purchase price. So if you bought $100 worth of seeds this spring, you have $10 in Mad Money on your account. Make sure when you check out, you've always used your customer
number.
Your customer number. Yeah, that way we'll keep track of your Mad Money for you, and then you can use that Mad Money towards all kinds of different things. Right now, whether they're on sale or whether they're regular price, you can use that Mad Money. And that sale's all next week, the 11th through the 16th. And then Monday, it's the 30th anniversary of the Utah Festival Opera. Yeah. And they're doing a festival on Center Street. So it should be fun. Food vendors, music, chalk art on the sidewalks.
Blocking off the street.
A portion of it. There's a concert at night that they're going to be doing. There's all kinds of fun things going on with the Festival Opera 30th anniversary on Center Street.
Yeah. So if you can't get down for the weekend with the sidewalk sale, head on down on Monday. Mark, always great to have you in the studio and answering all of our questions when it comes to lawn and gardening. And we'll be back again next week for a regular edition of the show to take your calls and answer more of those questions here on the Garden Guide here on KVNU.